Hey, welcome to Old Ass Movie Reviews. I'm Scott. There's Dave right next to me. And man, have we got a interesting, bizarre treat for you today
Yeah.
with 1965's Planet of the Vampires. A nice little sci-fi horror romp through the galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah.
Yeah, with bikers, and I'm sorry, no, not bikers. I do believe, I just have to get this out of the way. I think there was a sale at the local motorcycle store because they outfitted every astronaut in full on leather racing attire, complete with
Yeah.
matching helmets and collar
Yeah.
extensions. Now the collar
Those
extension,
collars. Oh, those collars.
God, that was looked so uncomfortable.
Do you like your quasi-futuristic clothing, Mr. Powers? That's all I could think of the whole time I was watching them.
The clothes were fine, but they slept in them. They did everything in them.
It
That
was the collar.
the collar was just
Collar got to me.
there was a
Like when
lot of
that one
things that
guy
got
took
to me.
his collar off and threw it down, the costume looked fine. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I get it. That's got it.
but not the captain and not number one. They kept their collars.
Kept their collars on the whole time. Oh.
So, you had sent me a text. Was this dubbed? Because I didn't think it was dubbed.
It seemed like a really hard dub to me. It seemed like, remember the old Hercules movies that were Italian Hercules?
Yeah.
Where everyone sounded like this. And all the women sounded
I
exactly
just thought it
like-
was horrible on the dialogue. Okay, I just want to get this out of the way. One of the biggest problems I have with this movie is the dialogue. And it was hard. It was not natural. It didn't flow. So it being dubbed, you may be on it.
Well, there's a lot of... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, one of my biggest pet peeves in it is they all referred to the captain as Mark. Mark.
Yeah.
Mark. I'm sorry. You're still on a spaceship. There's still some militaristic aspect to this and still some level of chain of command. Not everybody's all buddy. You're not all Mark. So it was just really weird for me to hear that. But the collars, but I didn't know if it was a dub or just really bad dialogue. This was done by Mario Bava, who had done Black Sabbath, a bunch of a lot of movies in the 60s, a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, Mario Bava. And you know what? Let's pop up a couple of his movies while I'm sitting here on IMDb.
A very well-known Italian director.
Never really paid attention much to IMDb until we started doing this podcast. And then I was like, where can I get information on a movie?
Why, look no further than Amazon, who owns IMDb.
or Amazon, right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. A Bay of Blood. Wow.
Yeah, this is 60s horror.
Lisa and the Devil.
Interesting.
That just sounds like a porno. I'm just going to say that right now. That's
maybe
he is Italian. Just going to throw that out.
We're going to leave that at that.
Not anything bad or good. I'm just saying that they tell the story a completely different way. But yeah, I think this was an Italian movie. I'm assuming this was filmed.
Yeah,
filmed in Italy.
God, I got a lot of issues with it. I'm gonna get some issues out of the way real quick, and then we'll talk about the good in this movie. This suffered from the Plan 9 from outer space bridge of the spaceship. Let's have a big empty fucking room with a console in the middle. What the hell? And a little tiny screen is like, I know we're spoiled by stuff, but not long after this, or around the same time, Star Trek came out, and it looked like a freaking ship. This looked like, hey, honey, I'm going to go fly the shopping mall for a bit. You know, it's like
it did feel like very little thought was put into it. Like we need a big open space for this. Not really. I mean, it's a big spaceship, but it's not as big as they were showing.
It might have had a crew of nine people or so on it.
It seemed like a lot of space. Like those hallways were huge.
Yeah.
I mean, all they had to do is have somebody go into a submarine and go, okay, this is a spaceship. This is what a spaceship. If you're going to Mars or Pluto or some other, weird planet, this is the spaceship. This is about how big a room you're going to have.
But I will give, we grew up.
Yeah.
We'd already had space travel.
Yeah.
At this time this was made, we were at infancy on space travel.
Yeah, they'd only been launching the satellites since 58.
Yeah,
Russians got Sputnik up in 58.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they were one of the first.
So this is 65, so they hadn't even launched anything to the moon yet.
Yeah, so I
think the Russians got to Venus with a satellite or with a probe at one point.
They got there pretty early. They were the first to Venus to.
And a lot of people thought that they were lying, but they kept pretty good records, and people are still looking at some of the photos from that place.
Yeah, on a completely off segue on Discovery Plus, they have NASA has got a lot of videos on that, and they talk about our solar system, and they show the old stuff. I just recently watched what you were talking about on the Venus and Russia.
Oh, and all
that. So it's actually really cool stuff. But anyway, back to the movies.
Back to what we're here to talk about, folks.
Planet of the Vampires. Okay, what did you like it?
Yes. This isn't quite Devil Girls from Mars for me.
No.
It's not quite like I really like Devil Girls from Mars. Like I would like to see a nice remake of Devil Girls from Mars with a better robot and a big line in the middle of London at the end of the movie. Watch our take on it. Watch the movie Devil Girl from Mars.
Yeah.
Tell me if you don't just love the schlock in that movie.
Such a brilliant fucking movie. I will praise it till I die.
But this isn't quite that.
No.
And normally, Scott, you and I hate the thought of a remake. Hate the thought of going, man, why did you remake this movie? It sucks. In this particular case,
it needs a remake.
I could see you making this movie like Aliens, like the movie Aliens. Kat and I were talking about, there was a scene when some of the spaceship people are out on the planet and there's a wind blowing and they're sitting there talking and you can see the clouds in the distance kind of flowing around. And Kat's like, they did get one thing really well on here. And I was like, well, what's that? She goes, like on that planet in Aliens, that wind is really howling. That's a creepy sound. She's like, that's like banshees and things in the distance howling. And I was like, yeah, that's what they needed here. They needed like that kind of look. They needed that lived in, been in space for 40 years look, or whatever, how they look. The aliens look. Everything was used.
I bet you Ridley Scott watched this movie before he wrote Alien.
He had to have. Have seen this movie.
There's too many similarities because I sent you a text. I said, man, this is a little bit of Alien, a little bit of The Thing, and some Star Trek.
Yeah. Exactly. And if I were going to write it or I was going to help somebody write it, because I don't know if I could do what I would want to do justice, but I could get somebody who wrote Aliens to do justice to it probably.
Yeah.
As long as they didn't let anybody.
It's a similar story. It's a similar story. And it kind of blew me away. It's like, I've seen takes on it.
But I like the thought of the two ships, not just one, being called down. I like the thought of one of the ships disappearing and they had to go find the ship. I like the thought of people, 12 little Indians. Now there's 11. 12, 11 little Indians. Now there's 10.
It's Alien.
Just one after the other dropping and nobody knowing what the hell's going on. The couple of people are seeing people and they're like, no, they're dead. And then they go to the grave site. And the good thing about this movie, folks, is it's some kind of rescue mission. They got a signal or a warning asking for help or something. So the space company or whatever sent these ships out. They find the planet. Their spaceships, whenever they get into like an orbit, get taken over. Their ships both are out of their control and they start to crash on the planet. And suddenly somebody takes over the controls and they land the ship safely. But when everybody comes out wakes up, they're just instantly insane and they just start going after each other to try and kill each other. The only guy, thankfully, on that ship that didn't pass out was the captain. He kept his cool barely, but he barely kept his cool, but he stayed awake. And that's what kept him from going crazy. And when he got fighting people, they like when you hit him, the pain or whatever knocks him out of there their what is it, like hypnosis, like they come out of it.
It was like a hypnosis.
And when they're like, what the hell happened? And they're looking for the other ship. They find the other ship. They go aboard the other ship. And this is when I really thought, this is Aliens. But I'd like to see this movie remade anyway. I don't give a shit.
I agree. 100%.
It could be so creepy. It was kind of creepy in the movie too, because you come out of a ship just like the one they're walking into, but this ship's power supplies are low. Everything's like dark, but you can see dead bodies. I mean, they just got dead bodies, and lots of blood. I mean, these bodies are just laying on floors and hanging over chairs.
Unfortunately, the blood was almost the color behind me.
Yeah, because it was 60s, and that's what they did.
60s blood.
Technicolor just didn't quite catch up yet.
No.
But it was nice. It was a cool effect, and I could see doing that really creepy now, really creepy. I like the thought of the problem with this. Let me preface what I'm going to say. The problem with this is it's called Planet of Vampires. There's no freaking vampires on this planet. Yeah. It should have been called Planet of the Zombies, if anything. And I'm still not quite sure what the aliens were supposed to be doing other than taking over dead bodies, because it was too hard to take over a living body. And then they kind of explain that you have to be willing to be taken over, and it just gets convoluted. They didn't need to convolute anything.
Well, this is what you've described. Is this movie does start off very much like Alien. We even find a different race of dead beings.
I forgot about that. That
huge,
was awesome.
Huge, like the engineers on Alien, and a different ship and a different part. And it's like, oh, what? This has happened before. What's going on?
Those heads be 10 foot tall. Yeah. Easy 10 foot tall.
Like the engineers. So it's like, man, I'm getting major Alien vibe watching this.
Yeah, that's what I said last night.
It's like, wow. But the beings on this planet are like light forms. They were like globes, like orbs. But their planet was dying because the sun was dying, and they needed a way off, and they basically set a trap to try and lure other societies or people to come get them so they could take over their bodies and go repopulate and keep their species alive. I get it. It's survival. That's what they were trying to do. The means were, and this is where it gets very Star Trek-y. It's like, I swear there's probably an episode just like this.
There is. It's the ones in the big ball. They're going into the computer that they're building. They're taking over Kirk's body, Nurse Chapel's, I think's body, and Spock's body. And the guy who takes over Spock's body is just like, I'm keeping this body.
So when I saw that, I was like, this is definitely a Star Trek Prime Directive tale right here.
Oh yeah,
a lot of morality, a lot of gray areas. It's pretty cool.
Big morality.
It's like, hey, this is neat. This is neat. But they were, the only way they knew how, or they thought they knew how, was to basically get the astronauts to kill themselves or kill each other, and then they could take over the bodies and head home. Which leads us to a really cool twist in the movie. By the end.
I just want to talk about this movie for just a minute before we wrap this up, because there is so much in this movie. It's very much a modern, I would say anywhere from 90s to now, space horror. Like I could definitely see this being redone. It was with somebody who went, fuck, I'll buy the rights to that. $500, boom, whatever the rights.
Imagine what John Carpenter would do to this.
Exactly. That's the kind of guy that needs to get into this. And I don't think it needs to be super gory. Like the first Aliens was not gory.
Hold on. John Carpenter did do something similar. It's called Ghost of Mars. So
that's right. Oh. I've heard of it. I don't know if I've ever watched the whole thing. I don't remember. But it's that kind of thing. I just love the thought of the two ships getting separated, trying to find each other. The one guy's brothers get killed. The women are just here's something. This is 1965.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
They have 2 or 3 women aboard this ship, and they are not treated very special. They are not like, oh, women, get behind me. I'm going to protect you. The one guy is going up the captain is walking up the deck with his engineer. He's like, okay, we're going to go check out the whatever the hell the thing is that they got to replace. They stole from the alien ship. And he looks at the lady. He goes, "You shoot anything that comes over here. You don't ask to, don't clarify. Just shoot. You hear something, you shoot it." She's on guard. She's on guard down below with a blaster. Nobody makes a big deal about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I have to mention these sorts of things because nowadays in our society, people would say, look at this woman. She's a man playing a man's part, doing a man's thing. And boy, we got to just recognize the sister power. And God forbid the actress nowadays playing that part would be on social media saying stupid shit, getting your movie canceled because nobody would want to go see it. Just back then, they just did it. It was like, here's a gun, protect us while we're up here. And then we're going to swap out. We're just going to take turns. Okay, yes, sir. Yeah, no problem. That bitch was going to kill somebody. She had that gun ready.
I was convinced she went with the captain because I thought the other guy stayed behind. But regardless, when I saw her, I always thought she was the XO of the ship.
I thought she was too. She's not.
See, I thought, and she probably is. And that's what I'm saying. 1965, you've got the second in command as a woman, and that's all I got to say about that.
Her costume wasn't any more tight-fitting than the men's.
Nope, it was all the same. So I have to applaud the filmmakers for this, just making a movie.
Just made a movie. They made basically you're on the ship, you're in some kind of command position, you got to help. And everybody knew how, like he told the one lady as something was going on, he's like, you fly the ship.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take the controls. We got to go make sure this other thing is put together right.
It was obvious there was no division of sexes in this movie. Everybody was on equal footing. And that was refreshing to see.
Yeah. And that I thought was really needed in this movie, especially if you're setting it kind of in the future. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't the future. This is where you can take over. If this is big time spoilers, folks. So if you want to go watch Planet of Vampires and see how cheesy this movie is, but yet how good you can see the plot. You have this little plant in your hand and you're like, grow, little plant, grow. You
grows.
Can be very powerful and good and strong. That's what the story is. You look at this story and go, shit, this should have been so much better. But the time constraints and the special effects didn't. But the ending was very Twilight Zone.
The ending was really Twilight Zone. And yes, the effects, the gore effects in this movie are really good. The makeup and prosthetics are really good and well done in this. I was very, very impressed with it.
That chest.
And just the face being burned and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. It was well done on that aspect. The actual set design of the planet is good. My big complaint is just the inside of the ship. But they still did some of that right. With the giant bulkheads, because they wouldn't be little thin doors. You would have to handle that kind of pressure. But what happens is Mark and his XO actually had at some point become assimilated.
Yeah.
With the beings, and they are heading to Earth of current time.
This was 1965 at the time.
1965 Earth. And the whole movie, I was thinking these guys were from Earth.
Right.
Apparently not.
Yeah. And they let you think this people who land on this planet because of the signal they're getting, you think they're from Earth.
Of course you do, because they look like us. And that's
and the fact that whenever they're talking to the alien, one of the beings that's been taken over is like talking to the one guy. He's like, well, we need to do this, this, and this. And the guy goes, that's just murder. You're just killing people. And the guy looks at him and goes, your species has been doing it for generations. You have like wars on your planet. And the guy's like, well, yeah, that's different. And the guy's like, how is that different? So you just assumed that he's talking to a human, that he's talking to someone from Earth.
Nope.
But that ending is really, you almost see it coming. When you said you loved the ending, I was like, how is this thing is somebody going to, I was expecting them to blow up the ship.
Yeah.
Like I was really expecting them to just do a Ripley and blow up the ship. But it was a pretty good.
It was a very Twilight Zone ending. They showed New York of the day. They zoomed in with their telescope, and he's like, "Look at this! They're still building with stone. What primitives or whatever." It's like
we're gonna.
And my brain is spinning at this point. It's like, oh shit! It's like well done, here's the thing. This movie, if you guys and gals decide to take a look at it, it starts slow.
Yeah.
The hardest part of this movie is probably the first 40 minutes. I know that's a big chunk, and it does
Yeah.
move kind of slow, but it does pay off. It pays
Well,
off really well.
it is explaining everything.
Yeah.
That like
It's a
you
slow
almost
burn.
have to have that downtime while things are being talked about and manipulated and looked at, because that's the explanation of what's gonna happen.
It could be
And
done
if
much
you're
better
not
today.
watching that, if you just skip to like the 40-minute mark and start watching it
You
from
won't
there,
know anything.
you're
Yeah.
not going to know what you're going to be like. Well, this is dumber than they said it was going to be.
No, you have to have it, but I'm just saying, for me, it was very hard because I texted you. It's like, oh Lord, good one, Dave. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Then because I was really struggling, but it's like I stayed awake, and once I got to the end, it's like, oh shit, that was worth a watch.
Yeah, it
Definitely worth a watch.
Like I said, the delivery not the greatest, because
No,
I'm
it's
assuming that
painful.
all those people spoke Italian, and then you have the guys dubbing. There's a couple of voices in there that I recognize from A,
Okay.
other movies, B, other voiceover like animations and stuff like that I've heard. There's one guy's voice there's one man's voice who talks just like this, and whenever he's talking, I mean, it's this big chested fellow, and he's talking very deep. But when you look at him, his countenance is not that voice coming out. It's not even close.
Yeah. There was,
so it's like,
so you may definitely be right. And that's,
it's
it
a
is
pretty
what
good
it
job dubbing, but it was just the acting. Some of the dubbing didn't match the acting.
Yes,
I guess is the words I'm looking for.
Yeah, and that's what I felt as well watching it. It was, some of it was kind of cringy. It's like, oh, what? Oh, that's bad. And if it really was poorly dubbed in those spots, then of course it would give that. But it's still worth a watch. It's still still easy to digest, I should say.
So those big 10-foot skeletons, man,
dude,
that are just laying there, and the ones trying to crawl out the door. You're like, what the hell got that guy?
Well, and that I was getting, that was alien vibes right there. It's like, oh my god, where they well, it might have been Aliens, where they find the ship, or I forget which one it is, but
would have been funny. Alien had the big ship on it with the guy with the chest blown open. Would have been funny had they been painting down the skeleton. You would have seen like a big explosion in its chest.
Yeah, and then we'd wonder why Ridley Scott was never sued.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a good movie. I mean, it's not a good movie. It's a good bad movie that has a lot of potential.
It does.
Could be now remade with the proper love and tender loving care. Could be a really good movie.
What you're going to get in a remake is some great space scenes because of technology today.
Oh yeah,
it's going to really set the depth.
How did you feel about the simple design of that ship, like the exterior design of the ship?
I had to remind myself I'm watching something from the 60s, but I don't know. It didn't look as good or as well done. The exterior shots did not look as well done when we saw the ship in space or the planets. It just wasn't as well done as some stuff from that time frame.
Right.
Once they were on set on planet, it looked great, it was cool. There's some neat camera tricks that they really pull off in here. A lot of forced perspective, a lot of you could tell they were shooting under a miniature to make them look even further away. So a lot of camera tricks, very neat stuff. Well done. Special effects, well done. So I don't know if I was watching bad acting or bad dub or a little mix of both.
I think it was just a mix of both.
Yeah. And
I really do.
Story is solid. Story is absolutely solid. That's why when it's like, I don't really care for a remake. If the movie's good, why bother? This, we've talked about a couple of others. White Zombie was one that would benefit from a expanded universe. So this is one that I think somebody should actually revisit or not. And the only reason I say or not is because they kind of did with Aliens. It's kind of already done.
I think you could pull off something very good in this one. I think you could still pull off that surprise ending, and instead of them going to Earth, you could just have the guy turn around and his things come out, like have 3 humans still aboard the ship with him alive, that he's like, well, you guys go to sleep, I'll get something to eat and I'll stay here. And then you just see him smile at the camera and his teeth get like, oh fuck, they're all gonna be dead by morning.
Kind of, yeah. And that's God. And that's just it. I'd put actual vampires in. I think just given the time frame with all the monster movies and stuff going on, they're like, this is gonna sound cool. Planet of the Vampires. Right. I didn't see any vampires.
Yeah,
Planet of the parasitic glowing orbs. There we go. That didn't just quite have the good ring as Planet of the Vampires.
Planet of the Zombies could have worked too.
Because they were very zombie-esque.
They were more zombie than vampire.
But then they weren't, because one just talked all articulate and everything.
Yeah, this is true. So they weren't really zombies either. I don't know what you'd call the movie.
Did I just tell an alien he's articulate for his race? He's one of the good ones.
He's one of the good ones. You sure speak well for an alien.
There we go.
Keep up. Orc, orc, Sorry, that means I love you. By the way,
yes,
folks.
It does. Yes, it does.
There's two people that are going to get that joke.
Me and you.
Yeah, me and you, and nobody else.
I have I forget what the name of the album is, but I got it on CD. It was like Saturday Morning Lunchbox or something like that.
Oh my God!
But it's all those songs done covers by current bands of the 90s, like Nirvana and Primus and all these others doing these covers.
Funny.
And it's like, it's pretty cool. I forget who did Epop Orc.
That sounds familiar.
God, I forget who did it.
I don't think I have the CD, but that CD sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a cool one. But this is definitely a decent movie to watch. It's a bit of the history of, I'm looking up to see who did that. The Dickies. I never heard of the Dickies.
Dickies.
Yeah. The Dickies. Let me see what the name of that album is. And oh crap.
Are you playing it?
Accidentally.
We're gonna get stripped.
No, that's not it. That's not it. They may have done it, but I'll have to look in my library. Violent Femmes did it.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I have to give my personal opinion, this is a watch. This is almost as much of a watch as I love how bad Devil Girl from Mars is, but also how good it is and how close it was to being a really, really good movie.
It was there. It was there.
I'm not quite there with this movie.
No.
I see the potential of a really good movie here.
It's got good bones.
Yeah, it's got really good bones. And I think it could work even now, even with all the alien stuff, that's been done and all the Predator things. You could still do that kind of vibe and this kind of thing on it. Hell, maybe even make it another movie like that. Maybe put it in that universe and just go, okay, these two ships crashed on this planet. Guess what? You got a bunch of predators hunting you now.
Well, and that's just it. With those universes, it's ripe for the picking, because they can't be Weyland-Yutani can't be the only corporation that went out there looking.
Right.
So it's
a lot more companies out there.
Yep.
There's at least 5 families that run everything in real life. So there's got to be at least 5 families that run everything in that pretend universe.
That's probably very accurate. Very accurate. So my final take on Planet of the Vampires. If you want to watch something entertaining, what?
Dumb.
I don't want to slag on this film. It's actually it's decent, but it could have been so much better. And I think that's what bothers me about it. I watch it, it's like, oh man, it could have been there. The story's there.
What you like to say, I'm going to say.
What's that?
I was entertained.
Perfect.
And that's what makes a good movie for me now. I was saying something to somebody the other day, and that comment came out of me. I was like, it's entertaining. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's all that's what I look for. I don't even look for anything super duper anymore. Like I used to sit there and, early on we were like picking stuff here and there. And I still will, like, just for fun. Most of my picking is just, I love doing it. I'm one of the old men up in the Muppet balcony.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you.
This reminded me of one thing, though. If Hammer were going to do a space movie.
Oh, this would be a Hammer film like crazy,
if
man.
Hammer would have done this, I think it would have been better.
Yeah.
Because they would have put vampires in it. Freaking Christopher Lee would have been standing there.
You know who would have been the captain?
Yeah.
Captain Kronos. No other. He's already a captain.
Yeah, Captain Kronos would have been on one ship, and Van Helsing would have been on the other.
Dude, like, I would so watch that.
Vampires. That's the movie. We just came up with the movie.
We'll take funding.
Yes, Kronos. How about you?
Kronos and Van Helsing. I mean, and whatever his name was with the hump, I'm good.
Yeah, well, that's got to be Kronos's, XL.
Yeah. Yeah. You dig a hole in the ground when you sleep at night for your hump.
and there's only three of them, those three left alive at the end of the movie, plus whatever vampire. And then as the vampire is smiling, like, haha, I'm going to kill these guys, and they're all dead, all of a sudden you see a big spike come through its chest, and Kronos and Van Helsing are like, what, you think we're stupid?
Oh, now the only difference if this was a Hammer film is all the female actresses would be almost naked. Yeah. So,
well, they have to sleep. They have to put on the robes and go dance around. But speaking of Hammer films, real quick, and then we're going to cut this out. I was watching The Curse of Dracula. That's the one that I was telling you about with Peter Cushing and Lee, and pulls the sun, and the sun comes down and fries him. I was looking at the girls in that were supposed to be getting turned, and how they always have these negligees on that you can see through them. And I was looking at it the other day, and I was like, you can't see through that, because what she's wearing underneath the see-through thing looks like you can see through it, unless you take a second look and go, wait a minute, no, you can't. There's nothing. She's wearing like a slip or something underneath everything that's a lot thicker. It's got to be at least 4 layers. So it must have been either really cold in that freaking recording studio. He was like, no, I'm putting something on. I'm cold.
Yeah, screw you guys.
She was burning up, dying, because there's so many layers on her. But it was really interesting. The later Hammer films that were actually showing, I think, boob shots just to try and get seats, butts in the seat. But for that movie particularly, I think they were just assumed. You just assumed that there was a lot of TNA in a Hammer film. But nothing I've watched so far has ever had anything.
There hasn't, but it's more sexy. Yeah.
It's very naughty. We'll say naughty.
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 Yeah.
But this is just kind of reminded me, if you like Hammer films, watch this and tell me if you don't think could have been a Hammer film. May have been better if they'd have done it.
I don't know if this film is a direct influence to Alien, but it sure as hell felt like it.
Sure as hell seems like it. Sure seems like it.
So if I ever am just having a beer with Ridley, I'll say, hey, man, did you? But we'll never know.
Where you going, Ridley? Come on. It's just a question. How many times have you been asked that?
Probably never.
Never.
Probably never.
Because nobody's seen that movie except me, you, and about 5 other people.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend taking a look at it if you like old cinema. And I know I said it's old cinema. I don't consider this old cinema, but it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
It was made before we were born.
Yes, it was. Just barely. Just barely.
I'm old. Anyway. Yeah. Don't forget to hit the like button, the share button.
Subscribe.
Tell your friends, hit the subscribe button. If you hit like and share us, it really helps in the algorithm on YouTube. I know that it helps us be found on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever Scott has us. He's got us everywhere for podcasts.
If you can't find us on your favorite podcasting platform, please let me know, because we're uploaded to at least 30 of them, and that is not an exaggeration.
No.
So
it's not.
So we're out there. But if you need to find us somewhere, let me know. I'll see what I can do to make us available wherever you'd like to listen. And
we want to make it easy for you.
Absolutely. So that being said, thank you to our new subscribers, our new listeners, our new watchers. Coming up, we are going to slowly slide out of horror into the Christmas season with a nice transitional piece from Tim Burton.
Something's up with Jack. Something's up with Jack.
Yeah. The Nightmare Before Christmas is our next episode, folks. So be sure and join us as we roll into the holidays. The other holidays. Thanks for watching, listening. Have a good week.
Have a good one.